when change happens, right? Coming back to all of this, and I meant to say, even with tools, tailoring tools and processes to what a lot of the work you were doing, I'm sure you probably noticed that culture comes before process. No matter what process we try to put in, the culture will always take over the process of some way, in terms of if we don't think about it. So discovery to me is something I do every single day within myself, with the project of me, all the way through my leadership, all the way through value delivery and tailoring. Discovery is a practice that usually involves learning how to ask questions, really, if it comes down to it, right? It's learning how to ask what questions and knowing when to ask those questions. But the pain points are when those goalposts, those targets that we said we were going to meet, if they keep moving, time to discover. If you're in a lot of change and your charter is like now at risk in your mind, even, time to discover. The moment Janet comes to me with a new request, before I auto yes, how about I assess before yes and take a discovery moment? Let's just have a 2-minute conversation to save a lot of time. Too many unknown unknowns. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed or ambiguous about what my next week or 2 weeks or day is going to look like, time to discover. So discover is a mindset as much as it is a practice, as much as it is a set of tools. And I'm going to go to you for your take on this.
Well, I think discovery is a great way to express this, because for a lot of people, and I almost said traditionally there, yeah, I'll say traditionally as well. On projects, there's this perception that change needs to be controlled, i.e. suppressed, that change is a bad thing. And we need to get away from that mindset. And discovery is a positive thing. It's something to cherish. It's something to embrace. It's because when we learn something new on a project, we have a better understanding of the project overall. When there's changes are generally perceived as bad, but some changes can be absolutely wonderful on a project. And not only should we be watching for these changes that are potentially bad, but we can watch for the positive opportunities as well on a project. And we need to accept the fact, especially in today's white collar projects or knowledge-based work, where you've got creativity and innovation is going to be the thing that differentiates you from other people. Discovery is what's going to allow you to come up with these aha moments that lets you produce something that nobody had even thought of 6 months ago, something that's going to actually be a game changer, not only for the person you're delivering the work to, but potentially for the entire world. So we need to go into the idea of discovery with a totally different attitude, that it's a positive thing, that it's something that we need to learn something about our project every single day. Because it's the learning, it's the answering of these questions that gets us to closure on the project. It's, learning something new is actually a step in the right direction. And if that direction happens to be that this isn't a good project at all and we should divert our resources elsewhere, that's a good learning. And so we need to get away from change control, get away from change management, think about embracing change, think about being in charge of change, being the one who's the change advocate, if you will, or the change driver on the project. Because where we are right now on our project is we don't know everything and we haven't got a solution yet. And it's only through change that we're going to get to the end point on the project. So yes.
Yeah, you got me again. Another tool that I use as I go through this. I think in the workshop, specifically the lecture, I'm pretty sure I've included some questions for you to think on. But the concept of a puzzle. So when change happens, to neutralize it, good or bad, right? Let's just keep it as a puzzle, and let's see where it lands. So if it is a bad thing, like where are we going to get the revenue from in the next 3 months, then instead of embracing the fear that can then spend energy around more fear, and all of a sudden my whole team is going to be in a state of fear, and all of a sudden we're not even thinking straight. Instead of that, I have learned to think of the word, it's just a puzzle. And that is actually a mindset that's helped me through periods of change. When I realize, okay, it's a puzzle, and I love puzzles, right? So even if it is a change that's perceived as negative initially, and please don't mistake me, right, Jim? I'm not trying to say, oh, every change is going to be unicorn opportunity. It's not. Some changes really suck and really suck. But still, there's a way to navigate through the suck. And there's often opportunity that is experienced when we stay open to potential opportunities. So I'm just asking people to stay open in that discovery process for maybe thinking a little differently. I was trying to think of the book. I think it's Adam Grant's book, Think Again.
Yes.
Great book. I was just going through it it's a couple of weeks ago, and there's chapter 9 and 10 just on all of this, even how to have these conversations. Fantastic. So one takeaway I have from discovery, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the course, I'm just going to throw it out there now, is setting time aside. Just like the rest of this system, you can use this system of 5 principles in this order as a way to tap into managing or navigating the feeling of change and the reality of change in your world. So if you were to spend 20% of your entire week, let's say that's about an hour a day of a work day. And at first you might say to me, oh my gosh, an hour a day, I can't afford that hour in the day. But just play with me. What if you were to spend an hour a day running through each of these elements in and how it relates to your life and to your projects? What might you improve, and how might that help? And I'm going to argue that if you were to take even, like, let's say 2 minutes per pie, you'll see a little pie diagram that come up on the screen here. But even if you were to take 2 minutes per element and ask yourself a question of discovery around each of these elements, like, how am I running this project of me? How am I building intentional culture and leadership? How are we providing value today and in the next couple of weeks or in the next year? How am I tailoring today? And how am I practicing discovery? Because that in of itself is a practice that needs to be developed. So I just want to encourage everybody as we finish off this session here, that this is a system. We put it in this order so that you could tap into it in a way that makes sense and in a way that builds upon each other. And then I just want to do one final key takeaway from my end, which is starting with the project of you matters, because how you are influences your team and the people around you. That moves into this intentional culture and leadership piece. We are all leaders. We all bring an intention to every day. So really being intentional with the culture we want to build will then lead into questions around value and how we're actually deploying on a project. Like, what are we doing, and really measuring the hard to measures. And then as we go into deploying a project and moving into the action part of our days, really checking in on the processes that we are using. But remember, processes come after we've done all that other work, right? We don't start with process anymore. That's somewhere in there, but not at the beginning. And that's, I think, a big key takeaway for a lot of accidental project managers, and for project managers that are switching into a principles-based approach. They may not know how to tap into it. And that's just what we just want to make sure you understand. This is a system, and it all revolves around discovery. You're constantly in the state of discovery. So keeping that mindset of openness and making space so that you can discover, so that you can take new information, feed it back into your day, into your life, into your projects, and then continually circle through this. So I'm going to challenge you once a week, even 15 minutes of thinking on these will go a long way. And on that, I'm going to move over to Jim for some final words before we end today's session.
I just have one final word, Rose, and I think it kind of ties it completes the cycle here, because we started with the project of you and we talked about issues around being overwhelmed and feeling lost. And you think about it, it's merely a puzzle to be solved. We're all 2 years, almost 2 years into COVID. We're all kind of overwhelmed with what's going on. There may be some signs of light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, it's not a train coming in our direction, but we can roll back from discovery into the project of you, and we can start to think about, yes, I'm overwhelmed. Yes, I'm feeling burnt out over the last year and a half, 2 years of what we're going through. But if we think of that as a puzzle to solve, that is a different mindset than waiting for the world to get better so that we can get back to life as normal. Because I think we really have to craft our own normal life. And it's just that the last couple of years with what we've all gone through has raised the urgency for us to take more charge in how we carry ourselves, how we engage with others, how we interact with the world around us. And so it kind of nicely closes up that pie chart, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it's a cycle that continues. It's a spiral, if you will, that we use to carry ourselves, not only in the workplace, not only in the projects that we work on, but in our lives overall. Because the more connected we are in the workplace on projects to who we are internally, the more effective we can be. So I don't think of my project life and the rest of my life as being two distinct things. They're all very intimately tied together. And if you're in a space where that can happen, I think you can provide much more value to the world and to people around you. So.
And that's why we did this, right? We took time and we built this so that we could help people adapt, but also empower themselves and really grow into the opportunities that they can really develop. So to all my project managers out there, I hope this helps you. To all of our accidental project managers out there, hoping this saves you several years of learning. No joke. I wish somebody had taught me these 5 principles prior, like 20 years ago. And to all my leaders out there, I know that we're always looking for new ways of thinking, and I hope this offers some new insight for yourself and for your teams. And Jim, I just want to say thank you. It's always a pleasure having these discussions with you, and I look forward to the next one. And I hope we do another one sometime this year. And Jim, just thank you so much for all the work that you've put into this, and also just for helping me discover more about my own way. So this has helped me as a project person as well. So thank you.